Woman, you are the holy grail, the Magdalene. Woman, no need to search any longer. The priestess.
Welcome to the Woman Rising podcast, hosted by Kathy Hartenstein and Zephy Devi, where we elevate and celebrate inspiring women on the rise. In this podcast, we talk to women from all walks of life about their soul's journey, the obstacles they overcame, and how they embody their feminine power. We hope to elevate women's place in the world, showcase their contributions, and provide inspiration for all women to rise to their fullest potential. Today, our guest is Marin Bach-Antonson, a Magdalene Rose priestess, mystic, and emissary of the Divine Mother. She is the creatrix of the Priestess Rising Mystery School, where she works with women who are called to activate their rose codes, illuminate their wombs, awaken their diamond light body matrix, and midwife the oncoming golden age. She also leads sisterhood retreats and pilgrimage at powerful vortex sites. At the core of all her work, Marin holds space for feminine soul initiation and opening the sacred heart. Welcome, Marin. It is our honor to have you with us today. Women Arising has been very lucky to have you participate in our programs in the past, and you've been very integral to our work because you have done so much to empower and uplift women.
Thank you so much, Kathy. Thank you, Zephy. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Yes, we're very happy to have you. Okay, well, I wanted to ask you the question about when you first did the Women Rising, and the first time, not even this time, because you've been with us a couple of times. When you heard Women Rising, what did you feel?
When I think about a woman arising, I think about a rose, and I think about the unfolding of a rose and how the fragrance of a rose will emit and emerge from the unfoldment. And so I see a woman arising first as unfolding into her true essence, and then allowing herself in her authenticity to rise up that spiral of ascension from the lower chakras to the heart, from the heart when she is fully in her soul to meet spirit and to be in full sacred union in herself. That to me is a woman arising and arriving.
Oh, that and arriving. Yes, that's beautiful. And also, when you said that, the next question was about what images and what emotions, but you just described exactly a beautiful image of the woman just opening up like a rose and just becoming herself. So thank you for that. That's really beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just love that image of the rose. And I know how integral that is to the work that you do. And I think when you look at a rose and you see it, it even has all of that feminine energy, all the petals, and it has that sort of power of woman. And so I love this idea of that bloom and that opening and then that beauty that is revealed in that process is really powerful. I've known you now, Marin, 25 years. We've known each other a long time. And, I think you've had quite an amazing and interesting journey where you started in theater and how you evolved in the ways in which you found this path that you're on now. And I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about what was that journey like? Like, how did you become who you are today? And what were some of the key moments on that journey?
Looking back on my trajectory of becoming, I really see that there are several gateways in my life where I was broken, but I remained open. And that coordinate is a coordinate that I've come to really value now. That when life is bringing me to my knees, to really embrace that. Because in the coordinate of broken and open, create God, spirit, the glory of the eternal was able to come into my consciousness and begin to redirect my life towards my destiny. And because I allowed that at the time without resistance, I would say that's truly the greatest reason why I am thriving in my life today. And then the other thing would be I've become really, really good and attentive at following the call and the nudges of my soul. My merging and meeting Mary Magdalene, for example, would never have happened if I didn't follow a particular call for my soul to go to this one retreat that when I showed up, it was not resonating with me at all. And I thought, why am I here? Why did I spend all this money? Why did I coordinate all the babysitters and the this and the that with my kids to get here? And yet on day 5, everything spiraled open and Magdalene came into my heart for the very first time and introduced herself and connected with me, as me, in me. And I would have never have had that experience hadn't I followed the call, even though my mind didn't understand why I was there in the first place. So I would say those 2 things, broken and open and following the nudges of my soul.
I love that idea. And you talk about Magdalene, but for our listeners, what does that mean exactly? Like in terms of being awakened to that, and what is that?
Yeah. So for many women who are arising right now and remembering and reclaiming the divine feminine, there seems to be somewhat of a phenomenon that the energy and essence of Mary Magdalene is catalyzing many women to find their way on the spiral of ascension. So for me, Magdalene is not only a character in, ancient mythology, but she really comes as a frequency, as a template, as a mirror for my own deep soul essence. When she connects with me, she gives me this one activation always to come into communion with her. And it is, I am you, you are me, we are one, we are she. And for many women, they're asking the question, who was Mary Magdalene? And that's a very potent, powerful, important question. But she's come into my consciousness and asked me to be in the reflection of who is Mary Magdalene. And so I have a sense of her from the now present moment. And for me, she is she's a frequency that helps me to elevate into a higher octave of my own essence.
I love that idea of a frequency because I think that's true. That's really kind of what it is. There's a resonance that is part of that embodiment that you're discussing, which is really powerful. So what you're describing, that those are really big awakenings that you had. And I love that the first part is being broken open and the second part is really listening to what that intuition is guiding you. What were some of the major obstacles that you faced along the way that you had to sort of overcome in that process and in that journey?
100%. Like having to navigate the preferences of my ego and the shoulds. And what I've learned about the shoulds are that they are ultimately really toxic energy. And yet we all live within the pressure of those shoulds. So I would say that the biggest obstacles for me were really the obstacles I was putting on myself, my self expectations of who I should be, of what my business should look like, of how far along I should be on this sacred path of awakening, having done all this work, all this stuff that the ego and the inner critic wants to say to you. I have had outer obstacles in my life, but when I look back on them, they're not really obstacles at all. They are catalysts that gave me the catalytic energy to move up into the octave that I am anchored in now. So I would say, yeah, to answer your question, truly, the biggest obstacle was really just myself and my own expectations and pressures that I'd have classically in the past put on myself.
I like that idea of catalyst because I think a lot of times people do experience a lot of outward obstacles, right? And they can trigger the ego or they can trigger the things that we put in our own way, because I think that is a big thing, right? We are probably our biggest obstacle most of the time. Can you describe that, go a little bit further into that concept of a catalyst, and maybe give an example of like what that is for us? Because I think it's a great thing
Absolutely.
to look at that. It's empowering versus disempowering.
Sure. So recently, within the past 2 years, I have become aware of a new paradigm that is always and ever available to us, and that's the eternal life paradigm. And truly, there are many different versions of ourselves, and there are many different timelines that we can be on at any given moment. And it really depends on where we are in our own vibration and our own frequency, right? Nikola Tesla said everything is frequency. So most of the world is in the paradigm of victim consciousness. And a lot of people don't like that word, and a lot of empowered women won't think of themselves as a victim, of course. But what I mean by victim consciousness is that the circumstances of our life inform who we think we are. There's another paradigm, which is the creator paradigm. And in the creator paradigm, the creator understands and looks at everything as a potential catalyst. So I'm just going to give you an example that's a really like far out example, but I'm just going to seed this in the consciousness of whoever is open to hear it. Someone in a victim consciousness would get sick and say, oh, I'm exhausted, I'm sick, this shouldn't have happened, this is such a bummer, I caught, that germ from so-and-so at my coworker, why does she come into work sick, right? Someone in the creator paradigm would say, I'm sick. Okay, I'm open, I'm available. What is it that I need to learn? Life, bring it on. What's here for me? Where am I resisting that I can look at, that I can learn from, that I can alchemize and ultimately ascend even further on this beautiful spiral of evolution? So it's an entirely different paradigm. And there really is only two lenses that we can experience life through, and it's fear or love, hell or heaven. And most people are toggling back between the two. So when I really understood that I have a choice, then I began to become magnificently addicted to calling in the powerful presence of love into my being every day, all day. I invite the living presence of love into my being. I invite the living presence of love into my smile, into my soul, into my interactions today. I invite the living presence of love into my body, to flow through my blood, to be in my joy. I invite the living presence of love into this interview, through my words, through these women. And the more and more that I began to truly practice that, I began to anchor in to this different quality of consciousness, where I just began to see things in a much different way. And a way to cap this is like everything in life truly is happening for me. And when I can love what is, then what is loves me back and gives me the lessons, the gifts, and the opportunities to grow into even more of myself. Truly, if I were to just like put a period on the end of this whole piece, it's really about resistance. If we can just get out of thinking that our little personality selves know better than the higher I am presence in us, then everything is going to flow. And I feel like I was really able to soften so much of resistance in my life starting about 2 and 3 years ago. And since then, life has just taken off, and I am living. It's like I'm not living life anymore. I feel like life is living me. And it's a real paradigm.
That is so beautiful. What was there a moment? Was there something? Was it accumulation of how you did that? Because I think there's probably a lot of people who are listening to this being like, I want that. But it's not always the easiest journey, and it's hard to get to that place. I'm sure it was probably both this accumulation of things that you did, but what was that shift for you? How did you achieve that shift?
There was a moment, and I will tell you the story. I'll give you the Reader's Digest version of this story. Back in 2022, I had just led a retreat up in Mount Shasta. It was a fantastic retreat, as many of the retreats, all of the retreats always are. And I was high. And I went up to the mountain, and I always do this ceremony where I give the roses to the mountain in an act of reciprocity. And while I'm up on the mountain, the best way that I can describe this is I feel this sort of wave of energy pass through me. And as this wave of energy passes through me, I literally hear the sentence in my mind, "We seek life streams to merge with." And I asked, what does that entail? It was just like, it was like a very passing, fleeting moment that didn't knock me off my feet. I just asked the question, what does that entail? And this is the moment that changed everything. I got a word that was like, that cut through my consciousness like a diamond. It came in through my crown, and the word was constancy. And it's not a word that I use, but within that word, it was as if the word was a packed thought form in the mind of the divine. That one word opened with a library of knowledge and wisdom for me. And it was this. I'm just going to go ahead and just say it how it showed itself to me. It was like, you spiritual people think you're so spiritual. You do your practices in the morning, you do your practices in the evening, but who are you being throughout the rest of the day? Okay, you read spiritual things, you listen to spiritual podcasts, but truly, what is the quality of your beingness? And that really rocked me, because I knew that that consciousness was speaking to me. And what I understood from that was the true master is in constant, committed devotion to walking in the presence and the glory of God, goddess within them all the time, every day, without fail. And I walked down from that mountain on fire with a desire to be at that level of devotion and to commit to that master consciousness. And every day, all day, as much as I can do it, I am in constant awareness, prayer, and presence of the divinity and the love that I am. And that has changed and raised everything in my life.
That is amazing. And I love the word constancy, because it really is about embodiment in a lot of ways, and making that be the status quo versus the thing you're trying to attain, and really living inside of it in a way, which I think is really beautiful. I know you've been very dedicated to helping women, in particular. A lot of your work is really focused on that, and that you are very drawn to that kind of divine feminine work and energy. And, why women? Because a lot of times we're living in this patriarchal world. We are confronted with, being a woman in this world. Did you experience that, or did you see that prevalent in the world that made you say, hey, I want to contribute to something else inside of that?
I'm going to answer that question honestly, Catherine. I'm going to say no. It was never why women, because that to me is mental. And this call was never mental. It was a spiritual call. It was a destiny. I walked into a room when I was 25 years old. And I walked into a circle of women for the first time in my life. I had never seen that before up until that point. And when I walked into that ceremony, that I didn't know what it was even, I just kind of went blind. And I walked through that door, and there was something that catalyzed inside of my body. It was like I remembered something. I remembered this thing that is sisterhood, that is ceremony, that is sacred space, that is circle. And it was so deep in my cellular structure, in my soul knowing, that I really do believe that on that day and in that way, my priestess codes came online, got activated. And then ever since then, it was, I just knew how to do this. I didn't learn how to do this. I didn't have to get certified in how to do this. I just remembered how to hold sacred space, how to facilitate ceremony, how to bring women into the new earth template of sisterhood. And I have been joyously following and heeding that call ever since that that moment, and it's been decades, and the work just keeps unfolding and growing and expanding, and there's nothing that brings me more joy than that holy work.
That's great.
That's amazing. That you actually, your coach just got activated at that moment and you didn't even know why you were there. And it's kind of funny that happens to, not a lot of us, but it happens to a few people. But the question is for me is, can you tell me a time that your feminine energy woke up, that your power of who you are as connecting with Mary Mag, connecting to your feminine? Can you remember a time, or it was at that time when it was, because I have a feeling it was something else. There was something else that kind of shook you up a little bit. I don't know if that makes sense what I'm saying.
Really, that particular night was the night that so much of the divine feminine came online for me. And after that night, I literally went up to the woman who facilitated that ceremony and I practically grabbed her by the shoulders. I was so lit up. Something else was moving me. I normally am not this confident. I went right over to that woman and I said, I have to do what you do. And I looked her right in the eye with like a desperation. And thank goodness she saw that. And she invited me to be her apprentice for 2 years. And so I got to be in a mystery school at a very young age. I got to be rewomaned. I got to be activated in the divine feminine. Now, were there other moments that took that even deeper? Absolutely. My birth experiences with my children, those changed me and gave me a relationship to this body temple that I never had before, a reverence for my body and a dedication to never judge this intelligent system that is my body to the best of my ability. And then, yes, the other, I would say the trinity in that experience, the third experience was that merging, and I would say that crashing into Mary Magdalene. And I could tell that story if it feels relevant.
I love it. Continue. Yeah, because I felt there was something deeper that I need to take out of you and
Yeah.
talk about.
So this was back in 2014, and I went to a retreat with this woman, Barbara Marks Hubbard. And Barbara is an older woman. At the time, she's passed now, but she attracted a much older crowd. So I was in my 40s at the time. There were people there mostly that were in their 60s and 70s. And that's fine. But I remember asking myself, why am I here? Right. And on about the third or fourth day, Barbara had said that she had rewritten some of the stories of the Bible, that she had gotten the intuitive hit from Spirit, and she had never shared them before. And she was going to share them with us for the very first time. And part of how she was going to share them was she was going to have people read them aloud and ask for volunteers. And there was a whole conglomerate of people that were excited to read these stories. I was not one of them. So they were practicing for about 24 hours, getting their parts and doing their thing. And the night that they're about to go on stage, if you will, and read these stories, I honestly don't even remember what exactly happened to this other woman. But they run up to me and they say, Marin, can you please read the part of Mary Magdalene? Because the woman who was supposed to read it isn't here now. And I thought, okay, I think they're asking me because I let them know that I used to be an actress, or maybe because I've got long hair. I don't know. But I took the part and I read it. And I remember so succinctly, there was a moment right before my cue. And the cue was from Yeshua. And in the reading, he said, my beloved, she's been silenced for lifetimes, and now she speaks. And I took a breath and I read this, paragraph or two that Barbara had written in the voice of Mary Magdalene. When I looked up, all the women they had tears in their eyes. They were, really moved by this. And I remember having the notion, oh man, I wish I was on that side of things. I just read this, but I don't even really know what I read. And that was that. And I got in the car that night. And as I'm driving on these back roads where I lived, go back to my home, I literally, the best way I can describe this, I felt a force come in through the door of the car while I'm driving, and it came over me and into me to the point where I had to pull over because I was vibrating with this energy. And the moment I pulled over and I was present with it, I cracked open into a sob that was a heaving, racking, messy, sloppy sob of energy. And it was a love that was so profound and so powerful that I had never felt before from my mother or from another woman ever. And it penetrated my consciousness. And what I hear in my ear is, Marin, I've been trying to connect. I am here now. And I knew, I don't know how I knew, but I knew that it was Magdalene. I went to bed that night and I woke up again, turned on, tuned up. My Magdalene codes got activated that night. And it was like something like a switch, a light switch got switched on. The next morning, I was obsessed with anything I could find about her. And at that time, this was, about a decade ago, there wasn't a whole lot of books, but I ordered anything that I could get my hands on from Amazon. And I just went down this wonderful path until I realized that that wasn't exactly what she needed or wanted from me, was to know her from the past, but to rather know her in the present as a part of who I also am. And that was how my Magdalene codes got activated.
Amazing, beautiful. Yeah, I kind of felt there was a deeper part of this wake up call that you had, and it's really amazing to get to read something and don't know what you read, being on the other side, going, God, what did I just do? What did I just say? And then all of a sudden to hit you as you're driving, because those things can happen anytime. It doesn't have to happen at the moment that we're doing it. It can happen any time of our life. We can just, sleep and we get it. We can wake up or talk or eat, whatever, take a bath, whatever that is, it will get activated if it needs to get activated. So what would you say to women now? And maybe women, they're just, starting into the path, they're younger and they really don't know where to begin.
I would say two things. The first would be for the younger women that may not be able to hear yet the second thing that I was going to say. The first thing I would say is just always follow the next thing that lights you up. For so many of us, we're so conditioned to have to look into the future and know who we're going to be, know what we're going to do, understand how we're supposed to serve. And the divine is only present in the here and now. And it is through your presence that things are revealed. So many of us think we have to figure this out, but figuring it out, again, is the mind. And it's never going to come from the mind. It comes from a revelation of the heart. And so keep following your heart, even when it doesn't make sense. One foot in front of the next, in front of the next, whatever lights you up. For the women who have ears to hear the second part, I would say this. Understand that when you're on an awakening path, there can be a sense of seduction for self-improvement, as if we need to heal something and self-improve ourselves. And we can really stay in that vortex for a very, very long time. And what I've recently been freed from is that looping. And what I know now is, and I'll just put it out there as an inquiry, what if the ego was a wonderfully constructed archetype that we actually came to interface with in order to know who we are not, to know who we are? What if there was a part of ourselves that was supposed to feel like not enough, that was supposed to experience scarcity, that was meant to feel what it feels like to be jealous and be betrayed? What if there's absolutely nothing wrong with that? But we actually learn that that's not who we are. And the moment that we develop enough of like, I'm sick and tired of this, then we can understand and harness a choice to actually pivot and move to the I am consciousness and stop looping in trying to fix that ego self. I'm going to give you a metaphor. Think of a caterpillar. For many of us, we're just constantly trying to become a better caterpillar, a better caterpillar, a better caterpillar, as opposed to really understanding this whole other paradigm of the butterfly. And the butterfly is the dissolution, the pulling our identity out of being the caterpillar, dissolving into nothing. You know, between a caterpillar and a butterfly, there is that state. I don't know if you know this. I was fascinated when I read this, where the entire thing just dissolves into nothing, into like a goo. And then the cells reconfigure and then become the butterfly. And so I think that that is an important thing for people who have ears to hear it. You don't give all of your life energy and all of your focus to just trying to feel enough. Just make the choice to connect with that part of yourself that already is that. You already are magnificent. You already are abundant. You already are everything you want to be. You already are successful. You are already sacred. You are already thin and healthy and thriving. There is a version of you that already is. Plug into that. Spend time there, and it will become anchored in your consciousness.
Thank you. That's very beautiful. That's very alive, actually. And I use the word alive because it's kind of like a lot of this work is it has become a little bit stale. So it's good that we can put some new downloads and some good different energies to it, because it's been repeated, and being in the past for a long time, but we need something to shake us up. And what you said, it's very powerful and beautiful. So it's alive to me. So, but the other question is that I have is, what do you do for yourself? What do you do to really cultivate your feminine energy and to walk in that path and to carry Mary Magdalene inside of you and to carry those codes? But how do you cultivate? What is something that you do daily that it will take care of that feminine part of yourself?
So one of the things that I've recently become aware of is that there is one essence, one quality that really allows us to be fully in our essence, our authenticity, and our master consciousness. And that is humility. And so for me, my practice is to humble myself every day to the divine and to say, today, I surrender my will to your will. Use me, move through me, make me available to anyone today that I can transmit love to, that I can be the embodiment of love for today in the most simple ways. And I'll tell you a story. Just about maybe a month ago, I'd gotten in my car, and I have a habit now whenever I get into my car to pray out loud and to say, when I pray, I'm not praying for something. I am focalizing myself into an experience. So I'm driving. I am a blessing today. I am the embodiment of love today. I am fully lit up and on fire today with the divine. I glorify my life today. I am living the purpose of why God put me here today, right? And I'm getting in my groove and I'm praying like this. And I say, God, give me anything that you want me to do today. I am available to be loved. And all of a sudden, this truck, I live on these backcountry roads, this truck comes in front of me, and it is like a tractor, and it is so slow. And I get behind it, and I'm like, oh, and my initial reaction is, oh, right? And then I realize God put this tractor in front of me because so many people that were behind this tractor and this man today have given frustration. And anything that we think transmits to that person. Anything that we think or that we say, the other person and where we direct it receives it always. And I knew in that moment that I was put behind that tractor to give that person love. And so I did that. And I said, I love you. I'm sorry I judged you. You are a blessing. I send you God. And within 2 seconds, that tractor veered off and it was no longer in front of me. And I knew that that was my task for that day. So I think that for many of us on this divine feminine path, we hear the call to be of service to the divine feminine. And there can be a little bit of ego in that about what it should look like, about having, a big business online, or being an influencer on Instagram, or writing a fabulous book, or getting lots of people to come on our pilgrimages. And all of that, I am experiencing all of that, but I know that it's not what it's about. What it's about is just being the embodiment of pure love in whatever way that the divine asks me to be that, and having really found joy in the simplicity of that. The irony is, I can't explain this, but the irony is the more abundant that my actual business becomes, and the more easy it is to like fill my programs or sell this, that, or the other thing that I'm putting out online. I'm not trying to do that anymore. I'm just really managing that inner ego to try to be as clean and pristine to the call to be love, to be the embodiment of the divine feminine as I can. And in my understanding, this great trinity of know thyself is the masculine, love thyself is the feminine, and then when they come together, it's be the creator. So again, for me, the feminine is all about truly being the embodiment of love to the best of my ability.
I think that's such powerful thoughts and wisdom today. And I am just very excited to be able to share that knowledge and that journey with our listeners, because I feel like we can get caught up in the mind or in the ego and lose sight of that divine love that we are and that we always have at our fingertips, and that we can embody and share and create, like you're saying. And I love that idea of that Trinity too. I've never heard it communicated quite like that. And that really resonated with me. I would love for you to tell people how they can get in touch with you and maybe participate in some of your programs. I have done many of Marin's programs, and I can tell you they are life-changing and transformative and stunningly beautiful experiences. So can you share with our audience like how they might be able to experience some of the work that you do?
Thank you for the invitation to share. Very easy. My website is priestessrising.com, and my Instagram is Marin Priestess Rising. And between those two platforms, you'll get to know me and my work and everything that there is to engage with.
What kind of things do you offer?
Well, I offer vortex retreats in Mount Shasta in Sedona, sometimes internationally when I get the invitation to do so. Right now, I just launched my Magdalene Rose I Am Temple immersion. I have the Magdalene Rose Mystery School. I do private mentorship. And there's lots of also pre-recorded products on my site where people can engage. I do activations if you get on my mailing list. And so it's really just all about listening to that inner call about how we can truly awaken our divine feminine mother codes and be the embodiment and emissaries of love on earth at this time.
I will say I recently went to one of Marin's retreats here in Sedona, and I think you are just a master of ceremony. You really know how to create this sacred space that really takes you into this place of love and the divine and letting go of that ego that we're talking about and being present inside of that intuitive feminine space. And it's a great way to experience Marin, experience her work. If you can't quite line up with one of her programs, I would recommend starting there. At any rate, it has been our true and deepest pleasure to have you on our podcast today. Your wisdom has been such a gift to us and to the people listening. And we are really excited for you to continue to spread this beautiful love that you are constant in every day.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for all the work that you're both doing. You are a blessing.
Thank you too. We appreciate you.
Thank you for tuning in to Women Arising, where we celebrate the resilience, wisdom, and power of women on the rise. Remember, when women rise, we all rise. If you're ready to embark on your journey of empowerment, sign up for our mailing list at womenarising.com and join our community of strong, inspiring women. To connect with Zephy Devi and ignite your inner fire, visit zephydevi.com and sign up to get your free tantric meditation. Let Zephy illuminate your path, helping you discover the magic and power that reside within you. To connect with Kathy Hartenstein and claim your spectacularness, visit createmorebliss.com and sign up for a free 30-minute consult call where she can help you break through your emotional blocks to success. Let Kathy be your guide on this journey of self-discovery and empowerment. Thank you for being a part of the Women Arising community. Together, let's continue to uplift, inspire, and empower women everywhere. Until next time, keep rising, keep shining, and keep embracing the divine feminine power that resides within you.
You are the holy grail, the Magdalene. Woman, no need to search any longer.